Doug Logan helped me look into a computer that I was trying to get into our Fight Back domain, and we couldn't. This guy Hancock, we found out. Well, Doug said somebody had hacked it. I took it to an independent company, and they found that Hancock had hacked it, and then we later found that he had stolen our donor list. So, you know, all of this stuff is kind of rolled out on me over time in terms of having concerns about Sidney and some, candidly, concerns about Mike. And Patrick, I've reached out to them to talk, and Sidney doesn't, she's promised to call me. She never does. Mike doesn't call me. I've asked him to talk to me. I did not like the Vernon Jones endorsement. I know who Vernon Jones is. I thought he was inconsistent with Mike's character as I understood it. And I raised that with him. I was very disturbed about the prayer that he gave out with Hank Kuhneman from a faith standpoint. And there were some other things that I started to learn that it just set off alarms.
The prayer being the one where Mike said the legions?
Yeah, well, I think the 7 rays of light and the legions. He said it was a Catholic prayer, and it's not. He lied about it. And then he told me he did. He told me he did not have any affiliation with Pegasus, and that's a blatant lie.
Pegasus? What's Pegasus?
Yeah. Pegasus is a company that's, I think Apple just sued him, involved in spyware and phones. And I asked Mike about it when he was telling me, you know, we're in different circumstances, because Mike charges a lot of money to speak. I don't like that, but that's his personal right. I don't think he's a patriot.
Money to spook?
I'm sorry?
Mike charges money to spook?
To speak.
Oh.
I've heard $25,000 to $50,000 a speech. I don't mind anybody making money, but when you're fighting for your country, usually you sacrifice. But that's his choice. But I thought he should disclose it to the people that were coming to these meetings so they would know what the speakers were being paid.
I do too.
And I raised that with Mike. I mean, he never really talked to me about it other than say, well, we have different circumstances. And I said, well, all my money's in land. I can't take a handful of soil to the grocery store, but I'm okay. And I said, I know you went through a rough time for a few years, and, you know, I know that cost a lot of money. And then I said, well, you made $1 million or something from Pegasus in 2016. He said, you know what I was talking about? It's fake news. That's not true, Patrick. Why would Mike lie to me?
I don't know anything about it. I don't know. But I've never had anything but super honorable in my dealings with him.
Well, then Joe Flynn connected me with a guy named Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson was all hot and bothered about me publishing the whistleblowers transcript. And I read him in a heartbeat as being a CIA or a deep state operative, and it turned out I was right. Well, how did Joe Flynn know him? And then Tracy Beans was one of the people that wanted me to run for chair of the South Carolina Republican Party, and she had a big function. And I went down and asked her if we could sell Win with Lynn t-shirts. She said no. And then she got on the stage and she spoke. She didn't mention my name. Mike got on the stage and he spoke, and he didn't mention my name. Now, I wasn't hurt about it. It just struck me as odd that someone was running for chair of a county that would not have anything to say about the person that she had urged to run for chairman. And Mike had, by that time, I think, endorsed me. She called me when I was on the way home and told me that people at the function were very angry because they wanted to hear me speak, and I didn't. I said, well, you didn't ask me. I don't take this stuff personally, but there's just a series of things. People that write for some of Tracy's stuff have been very attacking of me. Brian Cates. I don't see Mike ever defending me. And when Vernon Jones said that I was un-American, had made my money illegally, and was a racist, all of those things are false. There's not one shred of evidence to support them, which tells me Vernon Jones is the person that's un-American, made his money illegally, and is a racist. I raised that twice with Mike. Mike never responded. He never called Vernon Jones out about that. So it just bothered me. Something's not right now with Mike Flynn. I don't know what it is. I've tried to talk to him. I know there was involvement. Joe Flynn was the person that hooked me up with Ricky Schroeder, who loaned $150,000 to Fight Back sometime around November the 18th or 19th of 20 that pushed us to the $2 million to get Kyle out. I raised the money as quickly as I could. And then when I'm falsely maligned all over the country, if not world, by saying that I left the boy in jail so that I could grift off of him, that's such a blatant lie. Mike Flynn knows better than that, but he did not come out and say a word in my defense. What in the world is going on with Mike?
Wait a second. The only time I've heard that claim was the other night on CNN, or not CNN, Tucker. Kyle made a point in a way that told me he'd been coached. I'm sure you've seen it now. He made a point to veer in his interview over and make this point that Lin Wood left me, almost like he'd been coached to do it.
Oh, listen, he had to be coached because it's a lie. Once we raised the money, John Pierce, who at the time was representing him as the criminal lawyer, I never was. I was had signed on to help him with defamation after the criminal case. He told us to stand down right after we made the bail, that they were going to do their own fundraising, so Fight Back stood down. We took everything off our website. He said he was going to handle the defamation cases. I said, here's a letter of withdrawal, and I wished him luck. And then all of a sudden, I understand Dave Hancock got involved. Well, that's a dot that's interesting because Hancock was here right before Mike was here. But Mike was here in November. I'm sure I talked to him at times that I was busting my butt to try to help Kyle. And Mike Flynn sat silently. But Mike Flynn's written me all these nice notes telling me how he'd go to war with me and take a bullet in a firing squad with me. And then when Vernon Jones came after me and then Kyle Rittenhouse came after me, old Mike Flynn got out of the foxhole and ran. Something's not right with Mike, Patrick. And then I got information that you and Joe wanted to approach the Rittenhouses after he got out on bail to raise $5 million for him through the America Project.
The name Kyle Rittenhouse has never came out of my lips until last week.
I've got a text message from Joe that says that not from you, but from him where he was trying to set up the meeting.
Well, I never heard of that.
Patrick, I don't say something unless I have reasonable factual evidence to support it.
You're saying Joe Flynn was trying to set up a meeting on behalf of the America Project?
It doesn't say that in the text, but that's what I was told, that it was you and Joe that wanted to meet with Kyle to try to raise him $5 million after I had made his bail. Whether that meeting, I don't know that the meeting took place. I just know, and then there was a confirmatory text that Joe sent. Didn't mention you, didn't mention the American Project, but it was consistent with the information I'd been provided.
I've never heard a word about it or Kyle Rittenhouse in the context of the American Project.
I had the impression from your text today that maybe you had spoken with Kyle since the verdict.
I've not heard. I've never even. I paid zero attention to this. It was clear to me that it was self-defense from the day it happened, and I've paid zero attention for the year since. And a week ago, I tuned in on it and said, "Oh, great! It's going to be this guy's going to get off." Other than that, I've never talked about Kyle Rittenhouse with anyone. I don't think I've ever said the name until a week ago. Said the name aloud. So I don't know where any of this is coming from.
Well, listen, I don't discount the possibility that the information I got was inaccurate, but it was from a reliable source, and it was confirmed at least in part by a text message from Joe. So I don't just go out and say something. It took a lot for me to discuss Mike and Sidney. And your name was mentioned because of the information I had about the effort to talk to Kyle. I don't know anything about the America Project. I just know generally you have it. Like I said, I know you wrote a book. I know y'all did a movie. I don't know what else y'all are doing, but I just know this, Patrick, there's a lot of money in this audit movement and this whole movement to look into 2020 or to fix things going forward or whatever it is. There's a lot of people giving money, and so I'm looking over here going, maybe we ought to have an audit of everything and show people what they got and what they've done with it, which seems to me to be the right way to do it. That's what I did with Fight Back. I've never spoken with Joe Vaughn. Unless I saw him somewhere and said hello. But I've had concerns that people have brought to me just out of the community that said Joe Vaughn is not a legitimate guy. I don't know.
Well, I've heard that too.
I've heard
that too. I don't know because he doesn't. He's just finally getting We don't know either about Jovan. Jovan, nothing rests on Jovan. Jovan seems to go off in his own world and research technical details.
Well, who was monitoring the $5 million whatever dollars y'all put into the audit?
That was Doug, and in retrospect, this was way beyond Doug. Doug runs a little 6-man, hyper-exclusive cyber security firm. It turns out he's not up to managing a project like this.
There's a concerted effort that somebody's running to destroy my character and reputation. And I hope I do not find that Mike Flynn is involved in it.
I'm sure, Lynn, you're absolutely, if I couldn't imagine it because of all the times I see him promoting you. Just today, he sent to the America Project this recording of you doing a wonderful job manhandling that reporter. And I thought, gee, what a gentleman. No, he's always doing, like, good stuff, like sending us your good stuff.
Well, when it came time to speak up publicly for me with Vernon, he didn't do it. And I didn't think what he said about Kyle was, let's just say I appreciated him republishing my statement, but I didn't see him weigh in on what he should have, is that I am a man of integrity. And when these people came out and started viciously attacking me, telling me I'm insane, I think I'm God. Mike Flynn has been around me. Mike Flynn's the general. He says I'm his fellow patriot. He should have had his ass up raising hell about those statements made by this boy. And yet he stood quietly by, just like he did with Vernon Jones. What the heck's the deal with Vernon Jones? Approval. I know this.
Why?
I know that some of the people that work closely with him have been part of the attack on me, like Doug Billings, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and some people in the media that I know worked under Mike, like Joe Posobiec, served under Mike. And I don't know what Mike's doing. I hope he's not doing what I'm afraid he might be doing, but I'm not making any accusations beyond the fact that Mike Flynn has had at least 2 occasions, if not 3, to stand up and speak the truth, and he has refused to do it. The problem is, the whole allegation was that I was some sort of a fraud that had stolen money from a young boy that was in trouble. Do you know how angry that makes me?
Of course.
And do you know how I feel about the people that claim to be my friends, that know it's false, and they don't stand up and fight for me? I wouldn't get in a foxhole with Mike Flynn. Now, I tell him before the battle, I ain't going to be in there for you, because I know if we went in the same foxhole, Mike, first time the shot was fired, you'd turn and run. You'd be hitting the back because you'd be a coward running. I'm not happy with Mike Flynn, and you can tell him I said that.